And then what is it that, what's my summing range? The flow on the right side. I'm going to type flow, F-L-O-W. It sees it. Okay? So notice here, it's already highlighted it, and it's looking at plant 1. So I'm going to press right parentheses. So essentially, sum, looking through here, the range I'm going to be adding is here, but only those cells that's based on this range, the corresponding range, that matches 1. Okay? So I'm going to press enter, and I get 10. So yeah, because it's these. So these are the only cells that matches 1. And this is the summing range, and I just summed up those, and I ignored the other ones. With that in mind, I'm going to go ahead and just drag this down. And you notice that, and I need you to go back and make sure you understand this, but notice that this is consistent with what we did with the matrix one. There's the 6 for plant number 5. Remember, because the last 3 was not available. The last 3 was not available. So we did, and then these are all 9 because we only shipped 1 from each plant, each one. And I put 2 for this one, so I got 10. Okay, now the inflow, how much is coming into each, just like we summed up on the bottom equivalent of our matrix, we have to do a sum if. So we're going to say equals sum if. Okay, now we're looking at what? We're summing how much is coming in. So the criteria is the distribution center, right? So, and again, if I select this right, I forgot what I named it. I guess it's named DC. So if I press that, I'm going to go back up. Yep, it's DC. I select it, it's DC, comma, okay, F14, because that's the, now we're just summing up anything that actually had, in this range, as long as it has a 1, then we're talking distribution center 1, comma, and finally, again, it's a flow, F-L-O-W, right? And then a right parenthesis. So if I press enter, we see how much is received in each distribution center. It was 6, except all the rest would be, it will be 5, and then the 4 again for those other ones. Okay, now the last thing we're going to do, let's just make this smaller, is just do, this is simple, right? Total cost is what? It's so much easier now to do some product of these two, because that's how many we're shipping, right, from each of the centers, times the corresponding cost. So it's just right next to each other. So I'm just going to do a sum product. In fact, I could name it. It's called unit cost times flow. So I'm just going to type unit. I could see it because I named it already. It pops up there as unit cost. I click that, comma, and I'm going to type flow. I see it again. I just click it. So as soon as I type it, it shows exactly the area. I could have just selected it. So it's whichever way you want to do. You want to type it since you named it, or you just select it. Now I'm going to press right parentheses, enter. And I got 6,710, just like I did earlier in the initial setup. Now we're ready to go ahead and run this and see if we get exactly the same result as we did with the other way of doing it. So what we're going to do now is go to data. I'm going to solver. What's my thing? I'm going to pick the cost. I'm going to minimize it again. What's my changing cell? Well, this is easy there. I'm going to go ahead and just go ahead and pick that. So now it's much easier than, well, not much, but I feel it's easier to do that. That's the changing cells, right? That's where we're telling you to go ahead and guess numbers, how many you want to ship from each one. Now I'm going to add outflow has to be less than or equal to the constraints. And then I'm also going to add demand constraints that each distribution has to be greater than or equal to the forecast, right? That's the forecast. So I'm going to say OK. So now I'm just going to go ahead and solve it. All right. And we get the same result, 655. So I need you to go back and try and see if you can actually get the same results from scratch. Make sure. The hardest thing is to